As rightly introduced, my name is Mandla Luphondvo. I am comfortable being addressed as Mandla. The reason is quite simple. I work in public relations and I have for the past 20 years. So it doesn't scare me hearing my name because that's basically how I'm addressed through the different media platforms. So I don't feel disrespected when I'm addressed as such. Upon graduation at high school, I trained as a teacher. And then I started out as a teacher. I think I taught for 4 years, 4 years. And then at a certain point in that 4 years, I decided that I was done with teaching. So I did not take a break. I resigned. And everybody at the time told me that I was making a mistake because I was leaving a job that was permanent and pensionable, that was secure, and people thought I was messing up my life. And they said, "What are you trying to do?" I said, "I need exposure." So I resigned, and I had no intention of going back there. And I joined a local NGO. That really exposed me. Traveled to over 10 countries around the world in that role. But I will not lie to you and say everything was rosy. I settled for a lower salary. That's the leap of faith that I had to take. Settled for a lower salary, and people said, "You're crazy." It was not a permanent job. It was a contract job, 3-year contract with a very clear clause. Renewal of contract subject to availability of funds. So if there are no funds, thank you, bye, gone, done, dusted. But that's the terrain that I went into. And I'm grateful standing here that I got a lot of exposure, and that sort of worked as a jumping off pad to my next employment, which again was an NGO, and an international NGO at that. And I learned a lot, worked with different media crews from around the world, the US, Germany. I remember we went to some of these high places in these countries to do interviews, with those international media. Lots of exposure. So I had this deep-seated conviction in my heart to say I needed exposure. It was not enough for me to just be a high school teacher, talk to kids every day. It's a great thing. It's a noble job. But I think I had played my part at the time, and then I wanted a different challenge. Then I switched from the area where I had trained in and then gravitated towards communication, initially training in PR and then upgrading with a junior degree in communication science, and the list goes on. So the point being that sometimes you need to listen to yourself. Not to others, but listen to yourself, the conviction within you, the spirit within you, and follow that. And if you do that, then you are pursuing your God-given potential. You are pursuing the greatness that you were made for, that you were created for. And I know that all of us seated in this room are great in our own unique way. We just need to pursue our greatness. But sometimes we get addicted to this drug, the 8-to-5 job. I'm still trying. I'm still at rehab trying to fight that drug. Now, I congratulate Cindy who broke free from this. And I know that he's going to share that, how he was able to break free from that addiction. But that doesn't mean that I am not working through something that I am hoping to roll out in the coming year. So yes, that would be my introduction. Otherwise, I have 4 points that I want to talk to. But I was sort of debating as I read the room, trying to gauge if this was going to be relevant. But I see young people, and I hope they'll benefit from this because some of it speaks to them. The title that I've been given is How to Navigate the Workplace. The workplace is a forest. It's survival of the fittest. Sometimes in the workplace you may fail. Competent as you are, you'll fail. Because probably you've not been schooled in terms of how to navigate the politics in the workplace. Offices are politicized. Offices have factions. And when you come through, the factions are watching you. Which side are you going to gravitate towards? So it's a field. It's a minefield. So you more than just being competent on what you're trained to do, you need a lot of skills. You need social skills so that you know how to navigate that space. So sometimes you'd fail because you have not been prepared. You've not been equipped in terms of how best you can navigate that landmine in a way that you don't get injured. So, but the first thing that I'd like to talk about is for recent graduates who've just fresh from university. One of the things that I've found useful, and that sort of equips people for the workspace, is joining a graduate traineeship program. This is important because it accelerates your professional development. You can be a manager in less than 10 years if you come through a GT program. Where I work, I have seen admitted attorneys coming through this institution to be graduate trainees, and they just accelerated after that. Yesterday in the work function, there was somebody who got an award, 15 years of service, one of the exceptional guys in the organization. He started off as a graduate trainee, and it accelerated his development. He's a manager now in a very competitive environment. So that is one thing that I want to flag for the benefit of young people who are just fresh from university, that this is one thing that you would do well to consider. It makes your navigation of the workplace easier. It accelerates your professional growth and development. And it's a program that's cut out for people who are talented, who are exceptional, who are hardworking, who are hungry for growth. If you have all of those traits, this is a program for you. And thankfully, a lot of companies are offering graduate traineeship program, water services, Central Bank, MTN, FSRA, a lot of them. You just need to be on the lookout for these programs and apply and give it a shot. I have done a study for my MBA around this, and one of the things that I have learned from a range of organizations that are offering this program. Some of these organizations, a year into this program, then they begin to have stay conversations with you. You're a fresh graduate from university, and here is this big corporate having that conversation with you to say, what can we do for you so that you stay with us? So it's a powerful program. It's a program that would enable you to discover where you excel at, where you are good at. And then when they do that, they begin to give you additional training to accelerate your growth. You become solid in a few years. That's why in a few years you can easily become a manager. In a few years, you could easily become an executive. So this is a program that I want to recommend as one of the important jumping off pads that you could consider when you want to launch your career in the workplace. What it does, a graduate trainee program exposes you to the world of work. You get to experience different things. For some of them, you are rotated within the department so that you are familiarized with the different elements and aspects of the operation, so that 3, 4, 5 years, you're well versed with the operations end to end. And that puts you in a good stead for promotion, for lots of other accessories that would support your professional development. And the other thing that's a soft skill that we barely talk about is confidence. These programs are powerful in developing confidence, inculcating confidence within you. For those of you who don't qualify for this program, this information is for your sons, for your daughters, for your cousins. Even if this company wherein you were doing your graduate traineeship doesn't hire you, that's good. Your CV has already changed. Let's say you're a GT at MTN. The color of your CV has changed. You can knock at another door and get an opportunity. So it's a great program that I wanted to share one or two things. In the interest of time, I'd quickly move to the second one, coaching and mentorship. Those are some of the key things that the tool sets that you would need to navigate the workspace. You know, coaching is a scenario where the coach or where an experienced person, a professional in a particular field, helps you set goals and move towards achieving those goals so that at the end of the day, you heighten your performance within a defined timeline. That's coaching. But the more interesting one is mentorship, which speaks more of a nurturing relationship wherein the mentee, the less experienced one, has a relationship with the more experienced one for purposes of imparting knowledge, imparting advice, imparting insights, with a less experienced person. So it's a relationship. It's a nurturing relationship. It enables you to grow. It enables you to pivot your career. It enables you to follow the path that you desire. So this person will share experiences. If he has made mistakes, he will share insights with you so that you don't make the mistakes that they made. So it's a powerful tool because it helps you unlock your potential. So that's the other tool that I wanted to share. Coaching and mentoring. If you don't have a mentor, a coach, it's something that you can look at, particularly mentorship. I mentor a couple of guys in the space wherein I work, which is public relations. I assist them deal with some of the challenges, maybe answer some of the questions they could have around their professional development. Then the next one is execution, the discipline of getting things done. In the workplace, your company is not paying you for your certificates, but it's paying you for what you're able to do, for your execution. So companies are not in the rental business, renting your MBA, but they are paying you for what you're able to do. So you need to demonstrate that I'm able to do A, B, C, D. So your primary preoccupation is execution, getting things done. And execution is the primary differentiator between successful companies and those that muddle and fail. Execution is that differentiator between one high-performing individual and the other one who's not. So when you are in the workplace, one way of navigating is to get things done, not to sit in front of your computer and play games, computer games, but it's to get things done. Emotional intelligence. I think that's the other. We talk a lot about IQ, but we also need to talk about EQ, emotional intelligence. In simple terms, it means being intelligent with your emotions. It means you understand your emotions and you know how to manage them. Take it a step further, you understand yours, you can manage yours, but you can also manage those of others. You take it a step further, you are able to manage those of others. In the workplace, we deal with different complex personalities. So it is important that you are in charge, you understand yourself, self-awareness, so that you are able to carry yourself accordingly. When you are confronted, you know when to respond immediately, or you may need to pause, reflect before you respond. Sometimes you respond spur of the moment thing, respond out of impulse, knee-jerk reaction. And a few moments later or days later, you regret, I wish I hadn't said this to my supervisor. I wish I hadn't said this to my colleague. So this has become important because emotions, I know sometimes people rubbish emotions. They are there for a purpose. They're important because they help us to keep safe. They help us make decisions. They help us to develop and maintain social bonds. They also enable us to experience happiness. They are important. So it is important that we see them as a resource that we should nurture so that they work for us, not against us. So emotional intelligence, that's a broad field in and of itself. that probably this is not, maybe there's no time to deal with that. I want to, as I conclude, I have indicated the importance of identifying a coach or a mentor, because that would go a long way in supporting your professional development. Even if you are pursuing a business, you want to get into business, truth be told, you need a mentor, somebody that's going to help you. In business, this is how you deal with people. This is how you pitch. If there's an invitation for proposals, this is how you pitch. You know, this is how you do X, Y. This is how you manage your finances. This is the relationship you should have with ERS. And if you don't maintain that relationship with ERS, you're in trouble. You may even find yourself in court, charged, because there are certain obligations that you couldn't fulfill. So it is important. The first thing I talked about was, or one of the things I spoke about, was the significance of coaching and mentorship. And the other one that I spoke about was the idea of graduate trainee programs. These are important to accelerate your professional development. I also talked about execution. The key thing is execute, because that's why you are employed. Even when you are running your own business, you need to execute. And finally, I also spoke about emotional intelligence, making sure that you nurture your emotions so that they work for you, not against you. Thank you.
So, okay, my question is along execution, right? I work in a very, it's what did you call that? Highly stressing environment. There's a lot of things to do. And execution sometimes becomes a challenge because there's a lot of things to do. And if you are a high performer, you want to do everything, but you find that the time for you to accomplish everything that needs to be accomplished then gets into your personal space, into your weekend, into your time at work, and even at home. You don't have time for your family and all that because you just want to focus on everything and accomplish everything. How do you navigate that kind of? And if you do, then make that conscious decision that if I go to work, I'm closing my computer, I'm not doing anything, then things lag behind. And how do you navigate that?
I've navigated studying part-time, running a church, working in communications, and having a family. It's a complex thing. You know, some balls get dropped in the process. I can't stand here and say everything goes smoothly, everything becomes seamless. It requires a lot of effort and a lot of careful planning. First, there are different techniques that you use to drive your execution. It is important that you understand yourself, your work patterns. Are you a morning person? Are you an evening person? Meaning, when are you at your best? When do you deliver at your best? If you're a morning person, then one of the modalities you could use is that the intense tasks, you reserve the morning for the intense tasks. So that where you have your best energy, your best levels of concentration, you kill the complex tasks. And then when your energy is sort of declining, then you kill these smaller nyana tasks. Because there are tasks that you can kill in 5 minutes. You know, of course, some you delegate, you know, if you have that privilege of delegating. And what also helps, particularly for emails, you know, the morning time when you arrive in the office, that's the best time to kill emails, because it is important that you become responsive. You know, that's part of being professional and taking care of your stakeholders. So kill them. Some of the emails, they just require acknowledgement. Some of them just require you to block a timeline for a meeting. So you can kill you can kill 10 tasks probably within an hour or even more, these smaller nyana tasks. So some argue that if you want to be effective, kill the small tasks and then reserve a bulk of the time for the complex times. But you should do that cognizant of when are you optimally performing. If you do that in the morning, reserve the complex tasks for the morning. But if you're an afternoon person, you know what to do. So that's one thing that I would say. Then the other thing in terms of maintaining a balance, it requires intentionality. For instance, if you're studying part-time, your Saturday becomes your work day. It's your full day, you are focusing on your studies Saturday. But you should be intentional to say, this Saturday I'm taking my kids out for lunch, you know. And then they tend to appreciate that even though you are swamped with work, but you set out time for them. So that it becomes easier when you say, you know, this Saturday, half of the day I'll be focused on my studies, so no interruptions. It becomes easier for them to understand because you make time to intentionally attend to them. And when you do, you need to be fully present. Mobile phone aside, and you focus on them fully. If they're still small, you play with them. You know, if there's assignment that needs to be done, you support them in that. Fully present. It's one of the things that we miss. You are here with family, you're playing with your phone, you're taking work calls, you know, segment your time. For instance, when I'm in church, journalists know that they can't call me when I'm in church. But after church, I'll attend to all of them. I'll return all calls. You know, so my time is segmented. But still, even when you do that, it's not going to be seamless and perfect. Sometimes you would have new people that you need to orient into your schedule so that they can best support you. So segmenting your time in line with your commitment so that you are able to deliver at most of them. The other important thing, I once worked with a nurse from, where was she from? She used to say to me, Mandla, if you try to do everything, you will always be stressed. Learn how to say no. One other technique that we ignore, it's a simple one. Learn to say no. If somebody brings something to you and it's not something that you are able to do, it's not a crime to say no. My apologies, or I'm sorry, I'm not able to do this at this time. Psychologists will tell you that it's setting boundaries. You can't solve all the problems of the world. So you need to pick your battles. Choose the things that you would want to do. In terms of work performance, choose those tasks that would create high performance in your scoreboard. You know, that would give you the most, the bang for your buck. That's what they say in the US. You know, that would give you the most value. Prioritize that. When you do X, then you tick so many boxes in your performance scoreboard. Those are some of, I haven't shared a lot, but those are some of the few that you could try out, and I'm sure that it would improve how you manage your schedule and how you deliver in the workplace. But this one of saying no is important. You know, sometimes people in the office would come late when they require service. I work in communication and we're a service department. I want your department to design this for us. We want a speech, we have an event, we want that. So I have to service all of them. But for some of them, I have to tell them that I have a 72-hour deadline between myself and the boss. So I deliver my speeches to the boss 72 hours before. So if you come 24 hours, I have to tell you that I will not do that. So you need to get clearance from my boss, because at the end of the day, I'll be the one who's not delivering time. I already have a target that I submit speeches 72 hours before an event. So then it has to be cleared through my boss. He needs to come into the discussion. If he accepts it, then I'll take the assignment. If he doesn't, if he says I don't know that event and I'm not participating, I'm also out of that. You know, so saying no also helps. I hope that helps too.
Thank you for that. But I think mine is going to be a follow-up question to that, to ask how you, especially as a mentor or a coach, deals with people who come with burnout. Now you're talking about execution, but here as somebody who's burnt out, how do you handle that, or how would you help somebody navigate with that?
Great question. We have professionals that are qualified to deal with that. I'm qualified in communications, not in. So we need to respect other people's spaces. You know, there are instances where you referral. When you refer somebody, you're still helping this person. It's just that you're not hands-on, but you've pointed them to the direction where they need help. There are other problems like financial challenges, which escalates and tampers with the person's performance in the workplace. Again, you have financial counselors who can deal with that. So you will not have all solutions for your staff, but make sure that you analyze, is this something that I can handle? You handle it. If it's not something that's within your professional space, then you refer to the relevant professional. I hope that helps.
My question is, having risen so high in the corporate ladder, have you faced any instances whereby maybe you were being othered?
Brilliant question. There's another one, impression management. You know, in the workspace, there's some people who don't work. They create an impression that they are working. They just manage stakeholders. If the big boss is here, I have to pretend working. Not that I'm working, but I have to pretend, act like I'm working. And there are those that take credit for work that they have not done. And there are instances where you are sidelined in a space that's your own. I work in a space where everybody think they know communication. You know, so yet communication is a science. You know, there is a science behind there is a science behind dealing with the media. When they call you for a comment, there is a lot of science that goes into that. You don't just respond and say no comment. There is a science. If you say that, it means so many things. You know, so well, my response would be that in the workplace, you need to demonstrate the value you are bringing to the organization. Once you're able to do that, then it becomes easier. They are the ones that call you and say, you are required here because this is your space, because you would have demonstrated your value. But that takes time. You know, preliminarily, they would second guess you. Maybe they think you're not as competent as they thought you were. Maybe, particularly when you get into a space where when you were competing for that role, you also had internal candidates. And then you're an external candidate. So when you land, it's not going to be easy. You will need to work extra hard, demonstrate the value that you're bringing, so that at the end of the day, then you gain respect out of the value that you bring to the table. So it's a long process, it's a winded process, but it is possible to do that. But in other instances, what would help would be communication. You know, it is important to have a conversation where you are left out to say, this is a space that I work in, and I would have loved to have been part of this conversation from the get-go, so that you are involved end to end because that's your space. So some of these you can deal through communication, you know, polite communication without accusing, without pointing fingers, because it's also important how you address it, how you communicate it. So that would be my response.